Hey everyone, this is Martin.
And I'm Shelley.
And we're going to talk a little bit about a subject that, for me, I'm one of those kind of people that when all the people are talking about prepping and surviving and all this kind of stuff around me, for years I've kind of ignored that. And but lately, I've started to take at least part of it a little bit more serious.
Well, when we had COVID,
Yeah.
I was going shopping and there's things that I could not get.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and we all remember that.
Oh, yeah.
We remember the shortages of certain things.
Toilet paper, I can't believe it.
Yeah, and we weren't the emergency run get toilet paper kind of people, but at the time we were running vacation cabins and nightly rentals and things like that, and we needed it. I mean, we really did need it, and we needed a lot of it. And people would come in and I mean, we'd go buy that stuff, and it was like you're getting a whole grocery shopping cart full of toilet paper, and it's like, well, it's not for us. It's for our guests, and we don't know whether in 3 weeks we're still going to be able to get any. So so anyway, I mean that was that
was kind of like awakening for us on this preparedness, because whatever's coming ahead, we just want to be prepared. And I know a lot of people have been stocking up, so we're not the only ones.
Yeah, and a lot of that also had to do, to me, that was part of it, the whole couldn't get stuff at the stores. But then, to me, the bigger part of it was, we made a living running a couple of businesses, and all of a sudden we were told that our businesses needed to shut down. And I never would have believed up until that point that that our government would have the power to be able to do that, and the authority to do that, which I still don't believe that they do or did. But nevertheless, I mean, it happened, and we had friends that lost their businesses over that. We didn't, because we failed to comply, I guess. We were given permission to stay open because we were considered essential, but still it was a struggle.
We powered through it, though.
Yeah, and we did. We worked extra hard and all of that. So, I mean, that was kind of a turning point, which has been now about 3.5 years ago when we started getting that wake-up call. Mm-hmm. And that directed us, I think, more towards a self-sufficient lifestyle, and we've talked about that. Mm-hmm. But and that's where this whole property here came into existence. We've got a little cabin. It's about 400 square feet that we built initially to live in while we kind of developed the rest of the property. And the whole purpose of it was to develop a sense of self-sufficiency. And part of that is just being prepared for kind of whatever comes our way, which again, our wake-up call, whatever comes our way, was not pleasant the last time. So
yes,
and I can't imagine it being necessarily better. I can see that, I mean, it can happen again. Mm-hmm. And since the precedent has been set that hey, we can shut down your business if we decide to, I'm not going to leave myself vulnerable to that again.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of preparation and thinking ahead.
Yeah, and so what we've been doing is we've been focusing on what it takes to live from a more self-sufficient point of view, and what it takes to cover our kind of our supplies and our routine from a energy point of view, a food point of view, and a shelter point of view. And that's kind of been primarily what we've been focused on for the last 3 years. And the food, we wanted to do a garden the first year that we were here. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
The second year we were here, we wanted to do a garden, and that didn't well, it sort of happened, I guess. What did we call it?
Mountain garden.
Yeah, it was a mountain garden. It was a pile of topsoil that we'd scraped up and tried to plant a garden on that.
Oh, gosh.
It wasn't that we thought that was a good idea.
Well,
we didn't have time to do anything else.
Somebody got me all these seeds, and I go, what do I do with these seeds? He goes, plant them somewhere. And I'm thinking, the only place I got is that mountain of dirt.
Yeah.
So I put all this stuff in there and did it and wrapped it with, it didn't produce.
It worked, but it didn't work very well.
No.
But you can see the beginning with this year is 2024. We decided early, like in February, wasn't it?
Yes.
That we were going to do the garden thing serious this year. And
so it took a lot of steps because we had to clear the land. We had land, trees, and all this kind of stuff. And
cut trees.
Yeah. And so we had to go from...
Built deer fence.
Yes. And we still got critters coming in, but I'm gonna find out what that one is.
We need to figure out what they are. So with the garden produce, we've been canning it. We've been eating it kind of along the way. We've also been canning it, and we have been freeze drying it. And that's a fascinating process to me. And what all have we freeze dried? I mean, we've done.
I've done blueberries, blackberries, strawberries,
lots of berries,
peaches, cantaloupe.
Yeah.
Green beans.
Onions.
Done onions.
We've tried cucumbers. She kind of thinks that's a good idea, but I'm not sure.
Well, I think what I would do with them is when I repurpose them, I would make them into relish. So that would be. We did beets. Zucchini.
Beets, yeah.
Yeah.
All kinds of, almost everything that can. Oh, tomatoes, lots of tomatoes.
Lots of tomatoes, and we put taco seasoning, and we put salt, garlic salt on them. Oh, goodness, them things. My daughter came over, and she just kept eating them, and she says, "Oh, these are so good." Yeah. And so, but they're really tasty. And I wanted to try some eggs because.
Yeah, we did eggs, yeah.
I've seen some people doing eggs. I thought, you know what, that you can survive on eggs. Really, they've got the protein and a lot of healthy ingredients in them. So I thought, let's try some eggs. So we did like 8 dozen of eggs.
Yeah, and so I mean we've started kind of stocking up on that, and I don't know exactly. I mean, between the canned goods and the freeze dried goods, we've probably built up a supply of. I doubt if it would last us a year, but it might last us 6 months, maybe.
Pickles will really go.
Oh, the pickles will last a long time. Yeah. but so anyway, that's the very initial steps of that, and again, I don't know that I'm really buying into the survival doomsday kind of prepping sort of a thing, but I'm very comfortable with being prepared from a food and energy point of view to be able to kind of avoid kind of the hardship of pricing and availability of things.
And I like to say, when I grow things, I don't know what it is. They taste so fresh and they taste so good.
Now that is true.
And I'm like, wow. I mean, it's worth the effort. I will show you on video that we have a sweet potato that is huge. Yep. And when I was digging them things up, I didn't know what to think of because I've not ever done it. And when I was digging them up, I got so excited. They were like huge. It's like, wow.
Yeah. So, and
we had made pecane sauce one time, and I remember how good it was. So
I remember canning like 78 quarts of pecane sauce.
I don't know.
And we blasted through it in like a year and a half. So we know that it's good stuff.
Well, we had kids too, and they were helping us eat it. So, but I liked it, so we'll be making that. What I've been doing is putting my my tomatoes that are ripened in bags, and then I'm going to go revisit that and make pecane sauce.
Yeah, they've been put in the freezer, so they're hard. We used to do that. We would just put them in the bottom of the deep freeze, and when we got a bunch of them in there and you went to move them around, they sounded like cue balls banging against each other down there. But when you freeze them that way, and I can tell you this for a fact because we used to do this all the time, when you freeze them with the skins on, just the way they are, just drop them in a freezer and let them freeze that way. When you pull them out, you can run them under just warm water, not even hot water, just warm water for a second or two, and the skins slide right off.
Yeah, and you don't want to eat them skins.
Yeah, I mean you can, but to me it's better without them. Yeah. And they literally do just slide right off, and then you can cut them up and use them kind of however you want to.
Yeah.
At that point, but part of the whole thing too is we've got solar set up that's working, that really runs most of what we have here right now. We still have a grid hookup for our electricity, but really the solar provides the primary source of our electricity here, and it's doing really good.
Yeah, we could beef that up too. We've got some trees that we've noticed are on our panels, so we split our panels up
into two
banks, so that
the morning sun gets one set of panels really, really good, but not the other one, and then the afternoon sun gets the other one really good, but not the morning one. So we're going to trim a few more trees away.
Yeah, we just haven't had time. I would rather start this and get
Yeah,
this
get the
going
house
because we're
done.
still working. It's still working good, but we can make that work even better.
Those of you that are sort of considering the solar thing, you know, there's basically the equipment that you need, like the inverter. We have an inverter charger which does both. It charges the batteries as well as converts the battery energy into 110 and 220 power, and that's really good. It's a 12,000 watt inverter, and so I mean that's capable of running our whole property here. Yep. The panels are, I think we've got about 5,000 watts of maximum potential coming in from the panels, which is 12 400 watt something 425 watt panels. And then we've got right now our batteries is the weak point in the deal, and that's, we've got 8 batteries hooked up as 48 volt in a 48 volt system. And here in about a month, our kids who are operating the backwoods bug out property up north of here a little ways, they actually live in Florida, and this is their escape. So I've never been able to tell exactly where they're at with their survival prepping attitude.
But they really enjoy coming up
they
there.
have a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah.
And they are totally 100% off grid with everything.
Yes.
And you know what, it's like they're doing a really good job of it.
Very good.
And but anyway, they've picked up some big batteries for us, and so we're going to be ramping up in about a month. We're going to be ramping up a whole battery system, and then that will pretty much finish us off for collecting and battery storage or energy storage for that.
I was going to ask you if we needed to, after the house is built and we're using all this energy up, do you think that we would need more, or is there ability to plug more in with that system? That's a good
We can
topic.
always expand out. If we find that the collection capacity is not adequate for what we're wanting to do, we can always add more panels.
Oh, okay. That's good.
And because we do have the inverter capacity to have more conversion there.
Oh, that's good.
But then the next step would be if we find that we don't have enough storage of kind of the raw electricity in the batteries, we can always add more batteries to it too.
Oh,
so,
okay.
I
just
so
wanted to
there's
know.
expansion capability.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
didn't
sure
know
we would
whether.
need it,
Well, I didn't know whether the converter we had would do that or is capable of doing that.
It is. It's big enough to do it.
Good,
so, yeah.
good. So that's a good thing
plus,
to know.
it's a type that you can actually double them up.
Yes.
There's a big truck way off in the distance somewhere. But yeah, we could actually twin them up and put 2 of them in there and link them together.
Oh, that's good.
They're smart.
And you know, we did have some. Oh,
that 5 o'clock Charlie.
5 o'clock Charlie's here.
I don't know where he is. Well, we're gonna have to get a video of him.
Someday we are, because this guy comes around all the time.
Yeah.
And usually we try to get him, and
the days
we'll
we have a
there.
camera, he'll go right over, and the days we don't, or no, the days that we have a camera, he's off
way
in the
off
trees
in the
someplace,
distance, so we can't get him.
But the days he comes right over, it seems like we never have a camera.
I was up in the garden, here he comes. I'm like, oh gosh, I don't have my camera.
For those that don't know what we're talking about, there was an episode of MASH called 5 O'Clock Charlie where the guy flew over every day at the same time. Anyway, so that's that. So, you know, let's summarize a little bit the whole idea of the self-sufficiency and being prepared. You know, I'm not going to call it prepping necessarily, even though, I mean, technically I guess it is. It's more of an attitude of being prepared for whatever might happen, and really, you know, how you decide maybe the priorities for how you do that is what's the most obvious thing that happens that disrupts your lifestyle. And for us around here, the most obvious thing that happens on a regular basis is ice storms in the wintertime. And you know, if we were to list the top 10 things that have happened to us that required us to be kind of prepared for something, ice storms is pretty much 7 of the top 10. Okay,
right, definitely.
Because just where we're at in Southwest Missouri, it just happens more frequently here than it has anywhere else that we've ever lived.
And then it will take the power grid out, and then you're you're like forever without power.
Yeah,
and you don't know that when it hits, everybody wants to be serviced at the same time, and of course that can't happen. You gotta, do it.
The longest time we've ever been out of power due to an ice storm was 5 days. That's when we lived in Ozark. And we did have a small generator that did not do anything other than enable us to make noise and run some lights and TV so we could be kind of entertained.
It's a good thing we had propane fireplace.
Yeah, and we had set up. It was right after, it was a couple of years after the whole Y2K scare, and we had actually, not knowing what would happen then, we went in and put in, we had natural gas, but they said that could possibly be affected, so we added a propane heat source in there with a couple of propane tanks, and
that kept us.
We didn't lose the natural gas, so we still had that, and and we could heat. We had some heat sources, but the furnace was not working, and our generator was not powerful enough to run
because it was off of electricity.
Yeah, and it just required more than what our little generator could produce. Now we've got a couple of backup bigger generators that we could run everything on.
I remember taking blankets and shutting all the doors upstairs, and we were confined to a little area and trying to keep warm.
With our propane heat source, we were able to keep the house around 50 degrees, I suppose. In the room that it was in, we could keep it up to about 65, but it was still chill. It was uncomfortably chilly in there, and we went through that for 5 days. So
we learned.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, down here, that was one of the first things that we addressed, and we have, the area has lost power 3 times since we've been down here.
Yes.
A couple of times for several hours, like 6 hours or so, and then one time it was only a couple hours, but during that time, the 2 longer term ones was in the wintertime, and it was cold out, and there was snow on the ground, and that was part of what caused the outage. And we actually didn't even realize. I mean, we're hooked up on a kind of a hybrid, partial grid, partial off grid system in our house, which in our cabin, which we'll have to explain sometime how that works. But when the power went out, we hadn't even noticed anything because we have wood heat that was covering us really well there. Right. And I mean, we were cozy and never had a problem staying warm. And some of the electricity, when I woke up in the middle of the night, I checked Facebook. And everybody was complaining about being out of power and getting cold and all of that kind of thing. And I thought, well, I guess we're okay down here. We still have power. Then I got to thinking, maybe we don't have power. And so I got up and was checking some of the dedicated grid circuits that we've got here. And sure enough, the power was out. And our solar powered circuits were all running fine. We didn't have any problem with that. So we had electricity on.
We just plugged everything into different sockets.
Yeah, we've got 2 separate feeds coming in, 2 separate power panels that feed different circuits in the house. Is the nutshell version of how that works.
Yeah,
and
there was a reasoning behind it, but
and
I think
we'll go into that deeper. If you want to hear more about that, make a comment down below. I know we're long into the video here, but if you get this far and you want to know about how we've set this cabin up as partially grid, partially off grid, it's about 1/3 grid, or maybe about 1/4 grid, and about 3/4 off grid. And there's a couple of reasons for that too, but we could switch it all over to off-grid. With easy. About 1 day's worth of work, we could do that and be done with the grid altogether. We just haven't done that yet. Part of it has to do with me understanding the whole solar alternative power system, and I don't feel completely comfortable that I understand it well enough to be able to diagnose it if it fails. So anyway, that's the nutshell version.
That's the learning curve that we're going on.
But we're much further along than when we first started. Down here,
we're learning a lot.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the whole idea, is to become more self-sufficient, more prepared for whatever might happen. Now, obviously, if things really go south and really go bad, then we'll have to kind of address, our priorities and how we've gotten everything kind of set up here. But for the most part, it's I feel comfortable that we're making good progress in the right direction.
Yes. as we move forward, then we'll think, okay, now we need to do this. But
Yeah.
right now, the cabin that we're living in is 400 square feet.
Yeah, just 400
And
feet.
since we've had our garden, we've got a lot of things, and it's overwhelming our area there. So we have ramped up storage space, and we just don't have room for it all. So he goes, I wanted a summer kitchen, and he was going to put it over here, but he thought, you know what, if I just get busy building the house, put the summer kitchen in, then, so that's why we started the house. So.
Yeah, and our kitchen is going to be a traditional kitchen, plus we're going to have a summer kitchen kind of attached to the house that will have lots of windows in it that you can open them all up with screens, so so it can kind of vent the heat out as we're processing food and all of that.
Yeah,
so,
that'll be good.
So yeah, it's just something that I think fits well with the lifestyle. So.
And you know, I was thinking, how am I going to do canning in this small little cabin? And you know, when you're up against something like that, you just figure out how to make it work. We're that way. When we come up against problem, we decide, how am I going to make this work?
Yep.
And then we do it.
Well,
and so that's part of experience that we've found, that we're able and capable. So you can do anything.
one of our baseline, what would you call it? I guess values or core values is, when in doubt, just figure it out. And,
Yeah.
and that's what we've been doing down here.
Yeah, I've never run a excavator before, but there, hop on it, learn it.
Yep, yep.
That's the way it is. And you know, married to this guy, I never did half the things I did when I got married. I had no idea what I was getting ready for.
You know what? And we don't. That's not saying that I know how to do things. Okay. All that's saying is that I'm willing to give it a try, and try to learn best I can. You know, from people that know how to do it, or even YouTube videos. I've learned quite a bit.
Well, way back when I was learning everything, I didn't even have YouTube videos.
No.
I just had to
It's like, when in doubt, just figure it out. Yeah.
Just read what it says on the labels, how to do it, and
Yeah.
then you do it.
So if you're thinking about trying, if you've stuck with this video as long as you have, and you're to this point, I want to encourage you and just say that first, subscribe, hit the notification bell. But I want to encourage you that, you know, we didn't start this until we were in our 60s. I was 60, she was 62. And we're now 60. I'll be 64 in a couple of months, and she's 65, and we're still doing this. And you know, one of the things that I was kind of starting to come up against, not so much her, because she stayed fit and trim and all of that kind of a thing, but I was not so much. You know, I've experienced a lot of wear and tear on my body over the years, and so I was starting to feel the effects of just being in my 60s, and it was difficult. But I can tell you that this year, since we did all of that physical kind of heavy hard work up in the garden, cutting the trees and moving the trees and digging in the stuff and building the fence and all of that kind of stuff, I can tell my body has recovered some of its strength and stamina this year, and primarily it's been up there, and then what we started down here on the basement is requiring. But I can tell that over the course of this year, I've actually regained some strength and energy. So
I think you acclimate to it as you go. You know.
Yeah, and so now obviously, if you've got health reasons that legitimately can't, that take you out of the picture as far as doing that kind of stuff, I understand and I get that. I can't.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying that it doesn't matter what you're facing. That go do it. But for the most part, I think we don't give ourselves enough credit for for the ability to do things on into, you know, later years of our lives. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, we don't do it as fast and furious as we used to, but we're kind of slow and steady, and so it's getting done that way.
Here's my number one prayer: Lord, give us strength and energy. And I tell you, I believe that He answers them prayers daily, because when I'm like overwhelmed and just physically, all of a sudden this energy just, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, coffee and energy shots. So
I don't drink as much coffee as I, you know, and I got to say that I go down and I run every day, and on top of this, So I think
if you see me running, you better run too. Something's
but
probably chasing
I only
me.
do that because I think it's physically good for me, and I pray at that time. So I think the two things that I do helps me with everything else.
I save mine up for moving rocks and blocks and stuff like that. So.
If I have a very stressful day, I know it's going to be really busy, I don't take as long of a jog. But I like to do that.
Anyway, we do encourage you for the most part, if you're dreaming of doing something like that, or if you're feeling the urgency about being more prepared for whatever might be coming our way, my encouragement is to go ahead and do something. You can always do something, and even if it's just starting to stockpile some reserves to get you through 2 weeks of emergency, or be able to heat your home if there's a week-long power outage that you're faced with, or something like that. Finding ways to communicate with people if you lose your cell phone service or can't, any of that kind of stuff. Figure out ways to come up with solutions for that, even if it's just buying a little solar cell phone charger that you can keep your phones charged up in the event you lose your power. If you rent, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to do some of that kind of stuff. If you own your home, consider generators are probably the cheapest and easiest way. As long as you have fuel kind of stored up, it's probably the easiest way to maintain your electricity if you have an event that compromises your power. So there's a lot of things you can do. There's a lot of options, and we basically started with the immediate things that were easy to implement, like with the power of the generator. Before we came down here and started on this property, we had a couple of generators, and that enabled us to power our tools and all of the things that we needed to do to build this cabin with, until we got our minimal solar system set up, until we had kind of the grid connection. And we did almost everything that we did down here up to the point of having the house or the cabin just about built. I know that when we had it built and we moved into it, we were still powering off of, we had been powering off to a generator up till about the time we moved in here, and then we had a very small solar power system set up, and we had an extension cord run from our solar little utility building over to the cabin, and we did that for a period of time, and that worked fine. There's steps and stages that you do, and you figure out what's the quickest and easy to take care of an emergency, and then you start figuring out what the long-term things.
And then you adapt to every situation as you need to. Like I was going to say, when we were getting ready to do cement, because we had to have a place to even put a little building to put our solar stuff in, and we didn't have water. There's no way we had water.
No water here.
So the water, the ditch that we were digging, the trench, it rained, and we were using that water to mix up our cement. So
ironically, that ditch was for our water line.
Yes.
Okay, so we had a ditch there, but no water line in it. But we were getting groundwater that was coming up and filling the ditch all the way to the top.
Yeah.
And so we were using groundwater and rainwater to mix our cement with until we actually had.
And we actually bought a
big tote.
Tote. So if we needed to, we would have done that. But
we never ended up needing to do that.
So you figure it out, and you just do what you need to do.
When in doubt, just figure it out.
Yeah.
So.
I hope this has been an encouragement and a hope for you, and you really can do it. Yeah.
And I'm telling you, if you feel like it's work when you're doing it, it's going to be work. Okay. But if you approach it almost like an adventure, then there's a sense of enthusiasm and excitement that goes along with it, because we really do feel like, we're living out here in the woods, and we got wildlife come up around here, and to us it's like a giant camp out. And we're loving the experience, with the exception of some of the digging in the mud and stuff like that we do. But the experience overall is like a big adventure for us.
I might have to give him a mud bath just to say that I did it. Had a mud fight.
Well, I was covered with so much dirt and grease and oil and sawdust one day out here that I had to hook up and hose myself off outside.
Yeah. Oh, and our son-in-law coins the term when you have diesel smell on you, that's manly.
Yeah, manly.
The manly smell, you know?
It's the chainsaw oil and the chainsaw sawdust
smell.
and the diesel fuel. Was Tim Allen go? So our battery shut off, and I guess that was telling us you need to shut up and end this one.
We both looked at each other like, oh.
So anyway, just if you feel like you want to start creating more of a prepared lifestyle for yourself, don't be afraid to do it. Just find a place to start and just start working your way down your priority list of what's most important to you. Most people say that food, shelter, energy, and heat.
Yeah.
I don't know. Figure out what's the most important to you and just start there. And you'll, when you get a week's worth, shoot for 2 weeks worth.
Yeah.
And then when you get to that, shoot for a month's worth. Just take little bites at a time. How do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time. So just start somewhere and just start progressing into a preparedness lifestyle. So anyway, here's to having an excellent. You drank all your coffee. I've still got about one drink. So here's to having an excellent adventure.
And may the stopping never start.
Here we go.
Have a blessed day, everyone.
Yeah, and if you like the video, hit the subscribe, the notification bell, and we'll see you next time.
All right.
If you've enjoyed this video, give it a like and a share, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and the notification bell. See you next time.